I don't know, I have the weirdest like sex dar or whatever you want to call it, because I would always meet guys whom I was attracted to. That I'm also versatile, but I would meet guys that I was attracted to that I would want them to be on top, and they'd always end up being bottoms. And I'd find guys I wanted to be on top with, and they'd end up being tops. I swear to God, it happened to me all the time, and it was so weird. It's just like I have a weird attraction thing where I'm attracted to certain guys. But I think it's also because I think people who are, like you said, people who are tops. I mean, stereotypically, what do you think about a top? You think stereotypically a top is more what, masculine or whatever?
Sure.
And
I mean, but that's
aggressive, assertive. No, it's not. Or a bottom is more, Nally, as I would say in my day,
right.
or whatever. And versatile. People always say versatile. Piss me off because I've always been versatile too. Piss me off is that people would always say, well, versatile people are just bottoms. You don't want to say they're bottoms. That's not true. I mean,
Right.
because for me,
I think it just depends on the mood.
to me, it's like the
person,
chemistry. To me, it's the chemistry
Yeah.
with the person. Because there's some guys you can look at, for me anyway, and I would be like, oh, that totally I want to be a bottom of that guy. Other guys, I would totally be a top of that guy. And the other guys, it was both. So I think it's that way for most people. Isn't it that way for you?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the chemistry and who it is, and yeah, I agree.
Okay, good. What about the whole gay thing that we have here in America? I guess it's all over the world, about categorizing gays by their sexual, not sexual proclivities, but there's how they look, I guess, by how we look.
Nicknames like bear, otter.
Yes, daddies, twinks, whatever.
I think it's just a kitschy way to kind of, the gays are so kitschy. So it can't
That's
be.
true.
It's always, I think it's a way to just kind of categorize things. I feel like it'd be the same, like in a straight world, if you say that you're a chubby chaser or you like a girl that's a little bit thicker, you know what I mean? It's just by putting a label on it, putting on a name. I personally don't use them. You know what I mean? I understand them, and I especially understand like the whole bear culture, but I wouldn't categorize myself, and I wouldn't go around saying like, "Oh, I'm only interested in otters," you know what I mean, or silver foxes. Like that's just so not my style. So, for me, it doesn't bother me. Rather than I just think it's just a part of gay culture, and I guess accept.
Well, don't you think it's kind of limiting though to put people in those categories like that?
Sure, I think it depends on your perspective too. If you are a bear type, or a bigger guy, or a twink, or whatever it is, sure, there's going to be people that say that they're not interested in that. But wouldn't that happen regardless of if there was a title on it?
Exactly. That's right. I agree. What about you, Jason? What do you think?
When it comes to the different, categories, when it comes to, different types of people, they're there. I mean, like I said, I have to agree with Christian. I'm not going around saying, "Oh, I'm looking for a twink," or "Oh, I'm only into this," or "I'm only into bears," or "I'm only into otters." But, I mean, they're there. I mean, I guess in some way it's kind of, in a good way to kind of, categorize, but it's not to
organization,
right?
See, but if somebody like sent you a message and was like, "Oh, I'm not into," whatever, would that offend you if you don't like to be labeled that?
No, because I've heard it before.
Yeah.
For me, I just think the labels are wrong, period. I mean, generally, I think because no one really usually fits into any particular category 100%, right? So it really is kind of a misnomer to say somebody is this or that. But I mean, if you want to categorize people, bears are this and twinks are that or whatever, fine. But I think it's just I think it's irrelevant. I think that's what you're all saying too. So whatever. What are you guys? So what about people? Like for me, I'm very open about sex, whatever. But are you guys? Do you think people are too prude about sex or too open about sex, and who decides what is and is not morally acceptable sexually? What you do sexually, or how you exhibit your sexuality, or whatever.
For me, I'm just a naturally private person, just about my life in general. I wouldn't say that it's like a taboo thing for me. Like I would just never discuss it, because when I'm with my really, really good friends and we're at dinner and we all have a glass of wine, I just had a conversation with my best friend yesterday. It's like, girl, guess what happened? You know what I mean? that's that's just how it is. I think it's just that I tend to be a little bit more private regarding a lot of things in my life. So if I don't know somebody super well, or I'm on a public platform like this podcast, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging. But as I get older, obviously it's just a part of being a human being. I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of that. But I'm not the type to run around and kind of parade my social activities.
Your escapades. Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Jason? Jason?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What do you think? What do you feel about that?
I'm just the type of person, I don't mind talking about it. I do with my close friends, not with just anyone.
Yeah.
But do you think society is too taboo, or do you feel like we've kind of grown out of that?
I feel like it's too taboo.
You do, yeah.
I do, because just people are just so super modest now. It's like, I don't know, something happened a few years ago where a woman walked into a Walmart with a bathing suit on, and like people flipped the fuck out because she was in a bathing suit in the summer and she happened to go in, and it was anything like too revealing.
In a Walmart, really, of all places?
Yes.
Okay.
But people just like flipped out, and yeah, I think a lot of people are just too modest, and it's like they're showing a little bit too much skin and can't deal with that.
But that's my question: who decides what is morally acceptable and what isn't acceptable, and what isn't sexual, or what's actually just the human body? And like, you're walking down the street. Obviously, I think it'd be odd to see someone walking down the street naked, obviously, in the middle of a business day or something, obviously. But I'm not saying to that extent, but generally, like, if you are on, like, you're on a nude beach or something, and everyone is naked, or they're topless or whatever. Is that a problem for? Why is that a problem for the general public, or why would that be a problem for children to see? Do you think it's a problem for children to see the human form? I don't mean a dick wagging their face, by the way. I mean just like walking by or whatever.
Yeah, I think it just, as society, we've kind of like shamed the human body in that way. Even though we all have the same parts, I guess it's because not everybody wants to see everybody's parts, and if we were walking around naked, I probably wouldn't want to see everybody's parts, especially if I was in Walmart, because I'm sure the bikini wasn't cute. I've said that many people. So I think it's more so of not embarrassment, but just like, ain't nobody trying to see everybody's goodies. You know what I mean?
So you're glad we've got clothes.
Yeah, and it pays my bills. So
yes, it does. Good. Okay. Well, and the last of our main questions, and we'll get to the list that we had earlier, is circumcised versus uncircumcised. And we talked generally about this before, but just quickly, let's go through that and see what your thoughts are on that whole thing.
Circumcised.
I don't have a preference, but my deal about it is, if we're chilling and one thing leads to another, and it's like a sweaty, moist situation.
Oh, it can smell. Yeah.
That's like an immediate turn off for me. Like,
well, it would be for anybody.
But that tends to be the issue with the foreskin situation.
Gotcha. Well, I guess more my question is that not so much your personal preference for it, but more about whether you think that circumcision is necessary still, or that
for aesthetic purposes, I think I don't mind it, Yes. But isn't it? It's a religious thing, right? Or
in America, it's not. Unless you're Jewish or something, obviously. Okay. But they circumcise women in Africa, and that's just considered to be a brutal act. But when they do it to men in America, I said Africa, didn't I? Yeah, in America, it's not. So why is it okay if you're born with foreskin? Obviously, it's there for a reason. It's not there just because God, if you believe in God, whatever, said, oh, let's just add this extra skin on there so they can cut it off. It makes no sense. So obviously it's there for a purpose. It makes no sense to me why people would still do that. I mean, it's really a painful thing, even for a baby. So why did you think it's still necessary that people get circumcised when it's really not necessary at all?
Well, isn't the continuing argument on it that it's like more like it's like better for cleanliness and hygiene? Or
well, you could say the same thing about a woman's vagina. A woman's vagina is closed up, and if she doesn't keep it clean, what's going to happen? It's going to smell and be disgusting. So it's no different for a man to keep it clean. It's no different. So I don't understand that this distinction. It makes no sense to me at all. But I mean, aesthetically, people have different preferences. Obviously, for me, it doesn't matter either way. But I mean, I think you have to decide whether it's really worth cutting off a baby's foreskin just so that a girl or a guy, whoever, finds it more attractive. I mean, I think it's stupid. What do you think, Jason?
I like them circumcised. Sorry.
I know you like them circumcised. That's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking is do you think that being circumcised is necessary?
My personal opinion, yes.
And why?
It's just more of a personal hygiene thing to me. I mean, I understand what you say about the the vaginas and that type of thing and all that, but my own personal opinion, I think it's better.
Yeah, but you think it's better because of your own aesthetic bias, your own aesthetic bias, not because it's a medical necessity. That's what I'm saying. Right. I mean, that's your personal belief, right?
Right.
Okay. But it doesn't make any sense medically speaking, but okay, whatever. All right. How old were you guys when you both knew you were gay?
I knew I was gay. I want to say I knew I was gay when I was 13, but I didn't accept it within myself till I was like 14. And then I came out like right after I turned 15.
Okay.
But I'd say I started feeling the feelings and I started thinking about it and like being like I held a lot of self-hate around that time just because I didn't think I wanted to be gay. You know what I mean? I didn't want to disappoint my family. I grew up in a very small town in Oklahoma. Like I just didn't want to deal with it. And so around the age of 14 is when I started to warm up to it a little bit more. But by the time I was 15, I knew it was what it was and there was no getting around it. So.
Well, did you so you said you knew when you were like 13 or whatever, but does that mean you knew or does that mean before that you never had any inclination or feeling about what it meant?
Before that I never had any inclination about it.
Wow, so you thought you were straight before that. Or you didn't think about it at all?
I thought I was straight. I was a child.
You didn't think about it either way.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah. Okay. What about you?
I don't think until you hit puberty that you were really sexually attracted to
someone. Yeah.
From my own experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Because that's when I started to be attracted to guys.
Okay. Jason, what about you?
I kind of had the as far as the curiosity, probably when I was like around 7, but I didn't partake on it until my teenage years, of course.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll say about 7.
7, okay. And okay, and so when you were 7, you felt like you were. Did you know what it was called, or you just had a feeling about it?
Well, at that time I was 7. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I was like, oh, and it like I said, at 7 it wasn't a sexual thing. I just noticed at 7 that I like to play with boys more than play with girls, that type of thing. But at that time, and then when I hit my teenagers, and then of course I was like, oh, okay, well that's what that is. So. Right. But yeah, at that time it was just it was just something that I know it was different. I just like to play with boys more than play with girls.
Okay.
So, and when I say that, it wasn't anything sexual, of course. It was just like I just prefer being around boys as opposed to girls.
I understand. I get it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was. I'd say I knew since I was like 5 or 6 years old that I liked guys as opposed to girls. But like he said, it wasn't like a sexual thing. It was more like I know that I'm different somehow. But then at, I'd say 11, when I hit puberty early, go figure. I hit puberty early at 11, and I knew then for sure that I was totally gay, and I totally had no question about it. And then it came out when I was 14. Have either of you guys ever had sex with the opposite sex?
I have not.
I have.
I'm a gold star gay, so no, I have not. Thank God.
Mine was just a one-time thing, though. It was just a one-time thing. It was not several different instances. It was a one-time thing, and it was fucking horrible. So, yeah, one-time thing. Hated it. I was dissatisfied. I'm sure she was dissatisfied as well. So,
how old were you at that time?
I was 14.